Hi, friends. This is Reverend Alice, and you may remember Vicar,
Hello.
my husband, Richard. He is pastor of Trinity Church in Delmont, but he also lives in my house. So I see him here once in a while. And I just finished recording this week's sermon based on where John's disciples come to Jesus to say, "Are you the one? Or should we wait for another?" One of the things I'd wanted to do is to have a little bit of after the sermon podcast. And eventually I'd like you guys to be able to join in, because some of the things we're talking about are so provocative and they're so important in our own lives. They're things that we experience. And I really wanted to discuss it. And we have the opportunity in our home often to talk about these things as I'm preparing a sermon. Or I find that my congregation, Richard's congregation, the people that we know, they have the ability when we do sermons to take this as almost like a jumping off point where they start to think themselves about it, add their own experience. And that is a wonderful thing. So this week, we did talk about Matthew and the idea that John the Baptist is in prison, and he asks his disciples to come to Jesus and to say one last time, "Are you the one? Are you the one, or should we wait for another?" Well, during Advent, this is our season of waiting, right? Expectation. And Richard and I were just saying that occasionally, as we look at our own lives, we ask ourselves, is this it?
Yeah. Is this it?
Is this it?
Is this where I'm supposed to be? Now, John, he is in a very difficult and dangerous situation. He's in prison. And what he's doing is he's trying to find out what's going to happen next. He's, he's got to be frightened. And what he's asking for is, are you the savior? Are you the one who's going to do something about my situation? Here I am. I'm stuck. I need to know what to do next.
I don't know if I completely agree with that. I think that, first of all, John, as I said during the sermon, was standing in the middle of the street screaming about Herod's adultery. So, and that wasn't Jesus's deal, if you know what I mean. He, as a matter of fact, he mentioned nearby that event that the Pharisees would often complain to him because if he celebrated, he was a glutton. If he didn't, he was singing a dirge. He couldn't do anything right. But he was a person who enjoyed life. John was eating locusts and honey, and as much as that sounds like fun for a little while, maybe not in the long run. I don't know that John was really thinking that Jesus would save him as much as he was wondering if all of it had been worth it to him. His life toward the end, had it been worth it to give up everything else, to follow Jesus, to become a prophet, and now to languish in prison, to suffer? And so while I think that John might have been in many ways wondering, or maybe even expecting Jesus to save him, he never asked. He never really said that. That was not the question that he asked his disciples to ask Jesus. And if you remember, Andrew had been one of John's disciples as well. So there was that kind of a connection. There was an ease of conversation, I think, about all of the things that were going on at that point in time.
But what he does say, though, is he says, are you the one, or should I wait for another? Now, what's he waiting for? He's in a very dangerous situation. He's waiting for a way to be saved from that. And so it sounds to me like he's expecting Jesus to come and save him, or if not Jesus, maybe someone else who also has power that could come after Jesus. So it sounds to me like John is looking to be saved at this point.
I think that that's true. I can see that, but I also, as we were talking about our, you know, in our own lives, he's also asking the the important and poignant question about whether or not his life has had meaning or purpose. I think of that often now at this point in my life. Has my life, this is the way it's going, this is what's happened. And I'll be honest with you, we have gone through a few challenges in our own families recently, and sometimes I think, is this it? Was this the
Is
thing
this
that we were, yeah, that we gave our lives to our faith, who gave our lives to our faith for? Is this the way it's supposed to turn out? Or should I be doing something
something
else?
different? Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
I think that's a question that maybe a lot of people have. They don't know what to do next. They're suffering
Yes.
and they're saying, everything I've done in my life up to now, is this it? Is this what it brought me to?
Yeah.
Or can I somehow get beyond this and do something that is what I should be doing?
Or something is, should I expect something else? I noticed that a lot of people at this point where you're sort of taking care of kids and parents, you're making very difficult decisions you never thought you'd have to make. You're in that place and you wonder, what should I do? I've done my best. I've made the decisions that I thought I should make. And now, you know, my options seem almost impossible and very difficult. And so then we turn to our faith, right? What does our faith say about it? And I think this is where we come back around to John in prison, looking at his whole life, looking at what he has given, and asks that question, is this it? Well, I wanted to mention also, though, that during the sermon, I mentioned that Peter, when he saw Jesus walking on the water, almost did a similar thing where he said, if you are the one, if you are the one, then bid that I come to you. And it was challenging Jesus' identity in many ways. In this case, it was an experience for, I mean, Simon Peter, when he walked out on the water, but then sort of lost faith and took his eyes from Jesus, and he fell and he was saved, of course. But it was like that. It was like a statement of faith. If you are the one.
But
And
there's
go ahead.
also another question that's suggested with that. Not only are you the one who you say you are, but also, am I the one who you say I am?
That's really important. We talked about that a week or so ago, and we were saying that it wasn't Jesus just asking the disciples, if, like, why did you not have faith? It's, why did you not have faith in yourself, in your own faith? And that becomes complex as well. We have faith in Jesus. We have faith in God. Do we have faith in our own faith? Do we believe that Jesus told us that our life could get better, that we can ask and pray and do all these things? And yet one of my points of the sermon was, we don't ask. John didn't ask. Most of the disciples didn't ask. The people around Jesus who did ask for help were people who were passing through his life who were not necessarily followers. And I find that very, very challenging. Let's put it that way.
That's right. The question would be, you said that I'm a disciple. You believe I am a disciple. Can I believe that for myself? Can I have the faith in order to make that something that's true and something that can
Yeah.
be proven
Yeah.
by my walking on the water.
Or by their behavior, by what happened. If you remember when Jesus sent out the 12, right? They were all stunned because it worked. You know, they did have that power. And Jesus, when they asked, he just said, you do what I do. I've taught you how to do this. Do what I do. And surprisingly, they had that kind of power. And throughout the gospel, then we see the disciples who began with so little faith, with such it's such an unusual place in their own lives, grow and change to have almost unlimited faith and power. But it takes time,
Step by
step
step.
by step. I think there was asking along the way. I think that was, it's almost like, uh, what would you say, a faith practice to learn in your prayers,
Right.
to ask for what you need, or to even ask for the guidance that you need, to believe that you're allowed to do that, to believe that the power that Jesus gives us all means you too. And when we are suffering, when we are struggling, when our hearts are broken, and that always happens, we are not immune from it, that we can ask for that kind of strength, wisdom, guidance, and help.
And we should also point out that Peter, he did not fail
That's right.
entirely.
That's right.
He started out, he was walking on the water.
Yeah.
His faith was holding him up. And it's a matter of, as you said, step by step, becoming more strengthened within your faith.
Yeah. And also, I mentioned that when we do that, when we do have faith, something should show. You know, there should be some, and I think so many people, Christian people, and I mean, I've been guilty of this as well. Believe me when I tell you, you live a life where you think it's all on you. I grew up in a home where quite often the question at dinner time, even when we were very young, is, what did you do for God today? That's a lot. But there are times when maybe it's the other question. What did God do for you? How did you see God in the world? What did God give you strength to do today? And we have to, I think, explore that part of ourselves as well. It should show not just in our sacrifice, it should show in our love and our power, you know, and living in a world where we do have hope, even in the midst of all that is going on in the world right now. And this is an extremely difficult time. I personally, because of connections or friendships, I'm having a very difficult time with that. And so my prayers are different because of that. And my hope needs to be stronger. I don't know how you're feeling about that as well.
And on a daily basis, what did you do for God today? And I like the way that you switch that around. What did God do for you today? Another question is, how was your relationship with God today?
Yeah.
Because it's one-on-one.
Yeah.
There's a communication there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the reasons that we're really blessed. And one of the reasons I wanted to do a podcast like this is the way we kind of live. And it's such a blessing and such an opportunity to every single day to be able to ask those questions out loud in your home all the time. And I think that the more and more close you get to Jesus through some of those questions, some of those prayers of saying, I want faith, I want to use my faith, I believe that I can do that, I believe that you can bless me to do that, you will be able to more and more open up about that and, you know, really change things in your life and in your world. I'm always shocked at how much can change. when we really turn our eyes toward Jesus and the things that he wants for us, rather than just get so bound up in trying to be super Christians, which is, I understand that. That's wonderful. But we are not the ones in control.
Right. And it's not wrong to have questions.
Yeah.
Because when you have questions, it's mean you're asking for guidance.
That's when you have questions, you trust someone. I always think about
Right.
that with the kids. Sometimes, or I actually, unbeknownst to you, because you weren't in, he wasn't feeling well, he wasn't in church. I told this story about when you were eating oatmeal and it was really horrible, but I said, "What are you eating?" You said, oatmeal. It tastes horrible." I said, "Why didn't you just ask me to make you some oatmeal?" You go, "Oh, it kind of made me mad that he didn't
That's-
ask me to do that when I was willing to do that and wanted to do that for him, right?" And it's the same thing with the kids. Like sometimes they won't ask. Do you have family members like that? You know, when they ask, when it's the last moment, when it's like the last thing, rather than when things begin, when it starts to maybe, go a little awry, or when they need some help. No, no, they're fine, they're fine. And then when it really goes south, really goes pear-shaped, then they'll call you up. But yeah, I remember that. I did tell that
So,
story.
okay, that explains everything because everyone's been asking me about my oatmeal.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
What do they mean
yeah, yeah,
with oatmeal?
yeah.
I didn't get it, but
It's a one,
now I know. Now I know.
I'm a horrible cook. It's the one thing I can make, and then you ignored. But my point was, I would have wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And when you ask somebody for something, often it's out of a love relationship, right? You don't ask Jesus for something or God for something if you don't think they have the power to do it. You ask because they have the power to do it, right?
Right.
And I think that that's something that we have to integrate into our faith walk on a regular basis.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, as I said, this week we talked about John the Baptist, which is always a shocker to begin with in Advent. But the question, are you the one, or
Oh,
should I wait for another? And if Jesus is the one,
mm,
then no problem asking and no problem hoping, and no problem with our expectations for the next part of this Advent season. We really do look forward to seeing everybody and continuing to celebrate our Advent. Think about what it is that you're asking or expecting this season. I'd love to hear.
yeah,
I'd love to hear
yeah.
what you have to say. And Richard, thanks for joining me. And
Okay.
I'm hoping we can get some more
Could
people
be
in on
here.
this, because I don't know if we're enough.
Oh, I,
I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna run out of,
Well,
bad cooking stories real
uh,
soon, maybe.
well, you got a lot of those.
I
So,
do, I do, I
yeah.
do. But thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to you next time, and have a blessed week. Please join
Yeah,
us on
yeah.
Sunday. Thank you so, so, so much.
Bye.